Well, good morning. At least it's morning here on the seas, and we're playing Following Seas. Thanks for joining me today. And many of you have discussed um, an interest in the game, but having no sailing knowledge and would like to learn how to sail. Wish there was a tutorial, and that's what I want to do today. Is give a sailing lesson and a little bit of a tutorial, some nomenclature. Not so much in depth as just do the basic sailing so you kind of get a feel for learning. There's nothing like going out and just sailing yourself and getting a feel for it and learning. But it's a little more difficult, I think, to learn it in a simulator virtually than it would be in real life, where you can feel the wind and the sea at the seat of your pants. But this Following Seas does a very good job of feeling the wind and the sea in a lot of ways. But I want to discuss what we're looking at. We're looking at these sails, and different sailboats have different types of sails. And in this case, if we do an external view here and take a look around, you will see it has two sails. The forward sail is on the bigger mast, and we call that that one is the main mast, and then the back one I believe is a mizzen mast. So we got the main sail and the mizzen sail. But I want you to see this is the natural configuration of when you are sailing this ship, this boat. It should look like it does now, with the sails, which are known as Lateen sails. Lateen sails they have this spur that is 45 degrees to the mast. See how it kind of points down and forward, or points up and back 45 degrees to the mast. And where they attach is called the bolt. Now, it is possible to flip these around and have the spur, the wooden part that the sails are hanked onto. If you can flip the spur all the way around, so the part pointing down could be pointing up. We don't do that with this ship. It's not really made to do that. When you have a fully symmetrical sail, which these are not, you can flip them around. But there's no need to get into that because these are not fully symmetrical sails, and they're made to go the way they are now. One of the ways you can tell you got the right configuration, you can see that there's a blunt end. The forward side of the main sail is kind of blunt. Well, let's get back closer to the sail here. You see how you got this? It doesn't come to a point. It's got a cut. It's kind of cut there in the between the spar and a short little cut, and then you get down to this attachment point. You can tell you got it configured right when this attachment point we call the tack. This forward point of the sail, the bottom part, is attached to a rope or a sheet that goes from the port side through the tack and over to the starboard side. So, or one way or the other, it's always attached to both sides. And then you have a sheet that keeps the spar down to the center point here, and you can see there's a red hoop that allows you to grab that and move it around. So I can move that over to one side or to the other side, or if you get too crazy with this, you'll end up getting your sails all fouled up. For the purpose of a beginner, you should just keep it tied right to the center, and because that is the proper configuration. You will want to, when you get better at sailing, to flatten your sails and trim your sails. move that around a little bit. But right now, as a beginner, don't move that too much. Also, the sheet in the game, you can grab it, and using the scroll on your mouse, you can lengthen it. You know, you can lengthen it or pull it together. So if you look up, we've lengthened that. And you're going to want to do that when you get into position where you want to catch more wind going downwind. But when you're up trying to tack close hauled, we want to tie off there, and we don't want it to be. Take a look at what happened there. So we're not really at 45 anymore. We've lengthened that sheet so the spar can flatten out in a sense, almost perpendicular to the mast. So that's one way you want to trim. But for right now, we want to just do some basic sealing. So let's go back and grab that sheet again. This is the main sheet. And I think that is as tight as we can get it. Let's take a look. Is it right? Yeah, it's tight again. So everything I can do on this main sail, I can do on this mizzen sail, on the aft sail. So one of the things you want to check, once again, is that this sheet is tied out center. This is the prime configuration, I should say, what you want to see most of the time. And then you will see that it's also tied off in the center here from the back end of the sail. And so the very aft point of the sail, that's called the clew. So the clew also has some runners going from aft. If you look all the way up there from that spar, you got a runner going to the starboard side, and you got a runner going to the port side. And I think those are adjustable too, using the don't confuse this sheet here with this rope here. This is the rope on the mainsail. So for the configuration that we want for the mizzen sail, this secondary sail here, the smaller one, it's going to be tied off just the same way midship here, and then it's going to have an aft. Let's go up top, and the clew of the mizzen sail is going to be tied to the center back here. Once again, when you get good at sailing and you want to change and flatten, trim the sails, you can move these around a little bit. I recommend you don't do that until you get very familiar and comfortable with sailing the ship, because otherwise you're going to get fouled up and get everything goofy looking. But right now, this is the look you want. With the mast about 45 with the spars of each of the sails about 45 degrees to the mast, and the tack end or blunt end is the tack end on both of those sails facing forward. So okay, so we're kind of just hobbling along here. If you look, we're not moving that quickly through the water. We are moving. If you look at the foam in the water, you can see we're moving a little bit. But what we're going to do here is, if we're going to grab this whip staff and move along, and if we see, one thing I should mention is the wind is coming over our starboard beam here, and when that would be, and then catching the sails on the port side. So this side where the wind is coming from is the windward side, and the other side would be the leeward side. So we want to, if we want to catch more wind, we can move this, kind of turn the boat this way, to the port. So we're turning the boat to the port and see what happens, and then we'll kind of let it, the whipstaff, center off there. Let's take a look at the flag. If you look at the flag flying on top, you can see that the wind is it's coming a little bit from the backside. It's not perfectly perpendicular to the boat. It's coming a little bit from the backside, so we're in a running position. It's actually when you get in a running position like this that you would loosen up this and fly that sail a little bit more square, and not have the spar pointing down so tightly, because when you're running you want the sail to be less tight along the axis and a little bit more perpendicular to the ship. I guess we could do that real quick. I mean, we did it before, so we're gonna loosen up that sheet, let that go up a little, and then tie it back down again. And then if you look, you see how I'm able to kind of catch and get a little bit more speed. See how we caught more speed and it's foaming up more? Because since I'm running with the wind and the wind's coming from behind me, I can catch a little bit more by allowing that spar to go up a bit and square off. Alright, so the key is, and I think what everybody wants to know is, it's fun to just go sailing, but what if you want to go, there's the Watcher, that island back there, the big tower on it. What if we want to go there? How do we do that? That's what everybody's having trouble with. And so what we need to do is we're going to go from running with the wind to pointing into the wind. And before we do that, we want to go ahead and since we know we're going to be pointing into the wind, we need to work this sail back to where it was. Pulling it back down again. Nice and tight. And because we want that nice and tight when we point into the wind, we don't want that sail to catch the wind and get us going backwards. So let's whip around and see if we can look at the tower, the Watcher, and get our sailboat to sail that way. Now this is going to be quite difficult because we're going to have to sail into the wind. Well, if you think about it a little bit, it's not possible to sail directly into the wind. So what we have to do is zigzag our way. We have to sail as close as possible to the direction we want, and yet still be able to catch enough wind in the sail that it's moving in some way, gaining in one dimension, gaining direction that way. So we want to go over to the Watcher. So all the way over there. So we got some turning to do, and we're actually catching pretty good wind now. So if we straighten up, take a look, we can see that the flag is going almost perpendicular, and the sails are caught the wind, and we're heading back to the Watcher. We like to go a little straighter to the Watcher, but the sails may start to flutter if we do that. So what we want to do is find out how close we can come to pointing into the wind. So one of the things I wanted to discuss is the points of sail. The points of sail is, if you were heading, the boat was heading directly into the wind, um, that would be the point, the top point. But if you can tack and catch the wind as close as possible, that point of sail is referred to as close haul. So we're going to haul as close as possible into the wind before the sails start to flutter. If we want to point the boat where it's perpendicular, the boat's going perpendicular to the wind, that's a beam reach. And if in between the close haul and the beam reach is a close reach. So what you got to do is, if you want to kind of get an idea of the different terms, is type in points of sail in your Google, and it'll pull up a diagram, and it'll show you which is the close haul, the close reach, the beam reach, and then when you start running, it'll be a broad reach and a run. So right now we're kind of in maybe a close reach, not quite a beam reach, but in a close reach. So we're moving a little bit, but we're moving slowly. Now, one of the things that you may have to trade off is, if you want more speed, you're going to have to catch a little bit more wind, and you may have to let off on the close reach and go to more of a beam reach, or you may have to let up on the close haul and go more towards a close reach to catch a little bit more wind for speed. But sometimes, and this is what's interesting in boat races, different captains will have different strategies. They may want to go as fast as possible, but that won't take them as closest to the point that they want to get to. Where you may have to trade off and say, okay, I'm going to sail close as I can to the wind, but I won't go as fast getting there, but I'll be gaining better. So let's do a tack. Now, a tack is when we turn the boat bow right into the wind, cross over, and catch the wind from the other side. So let's do that. And watching our sails, they'll begin to flutter as we head closer into the wind. Still hadn't grabbed it yet. Wow. There's not a lot of wind today. We have a kind of a the wind could die down a little bit. If you look up at the flag, yeah, we're just now coming across the wind. So actually, we can have a good. We can probably sail to that island a lot easier than I originally thought. But I want to teach you sailing, so let's go. Now that we're into the wind, see how the flag is starting to wrap around the mast up there? We want to keep turning until eventually the sails stop fluttering and they catch on the other side. So you'll notice too, when you're sailing, it's a very relaxing and rewarding exercise, but I got to tell you, it takes patience. So you got to be patient, and eventually those sails will catch. They're starting to catch now, but we don't have a very strong wind. You can see the flag is hardly moving up there. Up, there you go. You see the mainsail just luffed over. Now, once it does that, you want to straighten out the whip staff, center it up, and see how we're doing. So we're doing good. So now we're heading off. We caught the wind on the opposite side. And we're starting to move along quite nicely now. But, once again, we are actually heading in the opposite direction of the island. So, I think you got the idea of what we need to do to tack. So, let's start going for the island, because that may take us a while. And it would be a good exercise for you to learn how to do the tack. So, when we turn the boat into the wind, let the sails flutter, and then catch on the other side, that's a tack. When we want to turn the boat running downwind, and the sails catch from the downwind breeze, that's a jibe. So you can turn either way. You can turn into the wind or turn away from the wind and make your turn. Let's do a jibe. If we were going to do a jibe, we'd have to go this way, I think. Yeah. So you got to be patient. The boat will turn slowly. Once you get better at sailing, you'll learn to turn the boat at speed. You get your boat going at speed, and you can do a faster turn. But in this tutorial here, you can see that flag is hanging almost straight down. There's not a lot of wind, so things are going a little bit slower. So the wind, you see how the wind is right behind me now, so that's what a jibe is when you're turning with the wind behind you. In modern day sailboats, where you have a boom that's, a heavy wood boom or a heavy aluminum boom that rides along the bottom of the sail, there's nothing wrong with doing a jibe, but it could be dangerous with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, because it'll swing that boom around if you don't tighten it up first. Of course, in the virtual world, you don't have that problem. Let your head get banged. So, yeah, let's grab that. Let's see if we can now sail towards the island. You will notice, whoops, I want to show you something too. There is nothing wrong with sailing the boat where the mast is on the leeward side. So the sails are kind of getting wrapped around the mast because, without flipping the spar and turning them upside down and around, that the sail, when you're sailing in this direction, will always be up against the mast. That's perfectly fine. I want to let you know that that's okay to do. But what I wanted to say is, if you get a real strong wind and the boat starts to tilt over and water's coming over the side, that's referred to as heeling. And when the boat starts to heel to one side or the other where water's coming in, you have to reef the sail. And the way to do that is you go here and start pulling it up some. You don't have to pull it all the way up, just reef it until it doesn't catch as much wind, doesn't heel as much. Well, let's put it back down because they hardly got any wind here today at all. So you can reef both of these by doing that. for sure. By the way, if you didn't know and you're struggling to, you can hop over that. You can't walk over it. It stops you. But you can all. Funny enough, you can walk in between this thing and the mast, between the tie off, the cleats and the mast. You can walk in between those, or you can hop on top of the hatch. By the way, if you hadn't noticed, the whip staff comes down and it grabs the tiller, which turns the rudder. If you want, you can actually look at a compass. The compass is right here. If you out in the middle of the ocean and you have no island to dead reckon to, you can look at the compass and determine which way the island is using your map. You say, let's say we got to go. In this case, we're going west. West southwest a little bit, and you can grab a hold of the tiller right now like that, and watch your compass while you actually are moving the tiller. See, I'm moving the tiller behind me while I'm looking at the compass. Just in case you didn't know. Alright, what's going on here? We got very light wind. The flag is almost hanging down. You know what I mean? We don't have a lot of wind. So sometimes, you almost have to fool around a little bit and see if you can catch a better breeze somehow, one way or the other. I wanted to talk about the weather helm, and with the ship being with such a light breeze, I'm not really able to show you that yet, but I'll tell you anyway while we're kind of moving slowly. When you got a nice stiff breeze, the boat itself will have a tendency to not to drive straight forward. The breeze going across the boat and the way the sails catch the wind will cause the boat to want to turn one way or the other. Usually it will want to point into the wind. And we refer to that as weather helm because when you grab the helm, when you grab the whip staff, instead of having it straight up and down in a strong breeze, you have to kind of push it a little bit, hold on to it a little bit to keep the boat going straight. So that happens in a strong. You'll notice that. And one thing I enjoy about this game is that it does show you that. This game, times like this, it can be a lot of fun. As you're struggling to sail and the boat's starting to move and the wind's picking up, it could be very pleasurable, without a doubt. We're moving quite nicely now. I think now too we have a little bit of that weather helm. You can see I'm at rudder's at a 2-degree angle. I'm keeping it there. And a little bit would tack right in there, I think. Isn't that awesome? We're sailing well now. let's go ahead and do the tack again. They just left over. Pull the whipstaff up. Head on in. This is a problem that people have noticed and talked about in the forums, and probably in the Discord too. I haven't checked the Discord, but once you get to the watcher, there's a lot of flashing going on, and with the lighting. So I don't know what that's about. I know that the developer's probably well aware of it. Getting late on us, I think. Go for another tack. grab hold of that thing. Let's get closer here. You notice we hadn't heeled over to the extent where, as rough as it's a good strong breeze as we've had, we hadn't had any water coming over the side. I mean, we have a lot of splashing over the bow. That's fine, but we hadn't had it just draining along the side rails. Oh, again, gotta be careful. We gotta do our last tack. Because we're going to be up on the dock in a moment. Coming up on the dock quite quickly, believe it or not. And one of the things that we could do is go ahead and pull up the mainsail. So go ahead and pull this one up. That one's pulled up. Turn ourselves into the dock. And we're sealed right up. By pulling up the mainsail, we don't have a lot of power now, and we just gently make our way forward towards the dock. If you're nervous about this, you don't want to crash the boat into the dock, you can go ahead and use the kedging anchor to take you in. But we're doing quite nicely, so let's go down, and we can take up this sail now. Whoa. I am going to crash into the dock, aren't I? Oh, just so ever gently. Okay, so I didn't do as nice as I hoped to have done. I wonder if I can get away with going off the valve. Let's see if I can go. Tie us up here. Yeah. And kind of pull us in. And then grab our aft spring sheet, rope, mooring line. Well, moor right there. See if it'll bring us over. It should. There you go. Actually, you know what we need to do. Let that one go so it can go back a little bit. Okay. We need to let that one loose. And then a little more on this one. A lot of bopping around, I know, but we're nicely moored now on the ship. There you have it. Took us a while. It took us the whole day. I'm sorry about that. I didn't expect the doldrums. I didn't expect to have such dead weather. So I think maybe what I will do is edit some of that dull part out. And so what you'll be experiencing by the time you get to this point in the video is I have edited out some of the calm weather, because it took way longer than I thought just to go through some basic sailing stuff. So there you have it, some things that you can maybe hopefully get some basic idea of what you should do to get your boat going. Some of what you could do once you get better at it, how to trim the sails. Keep the sails in the configuration that was shown in this video, and you should do just fine. Be patient, and your sailing will get better all the time. So hopefully you enjoyed and learned something from this, and we'll catch you next time.